He dressed as a doctor and told her he was going to take her butt. Hey guys, movie recap here. Today, I will show you the movie, Fresh, from 2022. We start with a woman looking at her phone inside her car. She receives a text from a guy she's going on a date with. It appears she knew him on a dating app. The guy appears to be cheap. During the date, the charming guy talks about diseases. He also speaks about the looks of the woman, and how he says he would like her to be dressed. He was also racist towards the people from the restaurant. The woman didn't like him and wanted to get away from there as soon as possible. The woman, whose name is Noah, rejects him outside the restaurant and the guy says she isn't even his type. She walks through an alley to her car, fearful because she saw a guy walking behind her. She was a little nervous after the date. We then go to a gym with her, where she boxes and speaks with her friend Molly. Molly tells her that she needed no man and that she was fine alone. We learn that Noah's job is as a designer. She works at her place, and we see that she is still on the dating app. The guys that text her there are jerks. She goes to the supermarket for some groceries. She meets a guy, who offers her some grapes. She accepts them, and the guy does some small talk and tries to be cute with Noah. She chuckles but doesn't seem to find him very funny. The guy insists and asks for her phone number. Noah finally agrees, and later tells her friend about him. The guy texted her a couple of days later. His name is Steve. He invited Noah for a drink and reveals he is a plastic surgeon. They talk about some trivial things, and we learn that they both have dead parents. They start smiling at each other. Noah says she had been alone for a long time and did not believe in love. However, when they went outside, she just said fuck it and kissed him. She took him to her place, and he said they were going too fast. Noah replied that she hadn't heard a man ever say that to her before. They got in business and Noah was smiley the next day. She took a picture of him while he was sleeping to send to her friend, then kissed him to wake him up. Later, Noah called Molly and told her about everything. Steve didn't have an Instagram profile, and that was a red flag for her friend. On the second date, Steve asked Noah if she had told anyone about him. Then she invited him to dance and on a getaway trip. He said the destination was going to be a surprise. Noah was all excited about the trip and told Molly right away. Molly was doubtful about everything. Steve picked Noah on his car but told her he wanted to take her to his place that night because the traffic at that time would be a nightmare. He said it was better if they left first thing the next morning. On their way, he told her that the surprise was going to Cottage Grove, a nice holiday place. After that, they arrived at his place. Noah was surprised by how big it was. She found it weird that she didn't have a phone signal, and the guy didn't have Wi-Fi. Steve served her a drink and asked how did it taste. He had put something on the alcohol that was too heavy. Noah tried to stand up but was too dizzy, and fell to the floor. Just now we realize Steve's intentions. We then see Noah waking up on a bed, asking what had happened to her. Steve said he had drugged her. Noah realized she was tied to one of the walls with a chain. Noah demanded Steve release her, but Steve is a hard maniac. Noah cried when she realized she was being held as a slave. Steve screamed at Noah to get her out of her shock. The guy revealed he was going to sell her hair and her meat. He said some people were paying him a lot of money to him for that. He said he wouldn't kill her at first if she was cooperative. Noah tried to fight him but he choked her. He left her chained in the room. Her friend Molly left her a voice message on her phone. Steve used it to reply saying everything was alright. Back at Steve's place, we learn that Noah is not alone. There were two other girls in different rooms. One of them had lost her mind. It seems Steve picked his victims after knowing they didn't have a family. Molly continued texting her and realized her friend wasn't the one replying to her phone. She googled the picture Steve had sent to her and realized that it was a stock photo. Later, we hear some music while Steve cooks some meat. Steve has an enterprise and even boxes his products. He then goes to Noah's room with some normal food. She decided not to eat. He managed to convince her to walk with him. She agreed and went out of the room, looking for where could she possibly escape. She tried to release herself but was unable to. Steve hit her. Steve took her to an operations room. He dressed as a doctor and told her he was going to take her butt. We then go with Molly to the bar where Noah and Steve had their date earlier. Molly knew the bartender and asked him to give her some information about Steve. She said she wouldn't go to the police because they wouldn't help her. The bartender promised he would think about it. Noah is going crazy inside her room. One of the other girls tells that she was going crazy because, after all, he was the only thing she could think about. She had Stockholm Syndrome but was aware that the bad guy was Steve. Noah realizes Steve had taken another woman inside the operating room. She then asked him why he had slept with her if all he wanted was her meat. He gave her a magazine, where another girl had written some words of encouragement for whoever reads it. The other girl returned after the operation. She told Noah she didn't feel like herself anymore, and Noah replied that she should be strong. Meanwhile, Molly went to a house she thought belonged to the guy who dated Noah. A woman opened the door and Molly told her that someone had been seeing her husband. Back at Steve's place, Noah asked him which was the taste of the meat was. Molly told the woman from the house she was worried, but the woman didn't show any sign of suspicion. Steve arrived at the apartment and Molly confronted him, but he said his name was Brendan. He denied knowing her. Molly called Noah, and the phone rang at Steve's coat. It was her wife who knocked Molly out. We then see Noah doing some push-ups, trying to get strong. She tries to win Steve's trust, but he already knows she's onto something. He bought her some clothes and invited her for dinner. Later we see Paul, the bartender, texting Molly while eating a hamburger in his car. She had texted him before telling him where was she going. Paul sees her location in a remote place. He then screenshots it. Later we see Steve's wife looking at her hair. It appeared to have some hair of the woman he kidnapped. Steve arrived and they spoke casually about their kids and his job. That woman, Anne, had lost one of her legs. Later we see Steve going for a run, perfectly happy. He returns to his place and takes us to his fridge, where he stores a lot of ribs and meat pieces. He offered Noah some food in his kitchen. She tried to talk with him while she searched for options to escape. Steve confesses he had tasted human meat since he was young, and that a whole community was dedicated to it. Noah asked how many people were in that community, and Steve said it was some of the richest people in the world. Steve was a renowned cook in this world. He said the market was with women because they tasted better. He offered her a plate and Noah ate from it. Steve said that the plate cost $30,000. Also that it would cost more if the girl was alive. Steve took Noah to her room and told her he liked her because she was messed up as well. After that, he grabbed Molly and took her to the operating room. Noah was puking, and the other kidnapped girl spoke to her. They calmed down a bit together. We find out that the other girl is missing a leg, as Steve's wife. The next day, Steve bought Noah a pink dress and said he was inviting her again for dinner. She didn't like the dress and couldn't hide it, but acted as if she wanted to be at the dinner. Steve had also brought her some makeup. We see Steve receiving and ignoring a text from his wife. He then goes to Noah's room and takes her to the kitchen, with her handcuffs still on. Noah sits on the table and drinks an entire glass of wine in a sip. We notice that Steve is starting to trust Noah. She asked if he have had dinner with one of the other women. Steve reveals that he had a secret drawer where he kept the belongings of the woman he kidnapped. All their phones were in a corner, and Noah spotted Molly's. Noah did some more jokes, trying to adapt to the situation. She pretended she was laughing, but in reality, was crying. She was falling apart, and Steve used his hands to console her. He then kissed her on her forehead, told her she was different and kissed her on her mouth. He had forgotten to handcuff her. Noah proposed to dance with him, and they went to the living room, with Noah shackles free. They danced and kissed for a while, with Noah pretending to like the whole thing. She played with him for a while and managed to sneak into his bathroom. Noah bit him when she returned. She also used his toothpaste to make him blind for a moment. Noah returned to the rooms and helped her friend Molly and Penny, the other girl, to escape. Steve was in pain but was able to walk. The three women hid in his kitchen and attacked him with his tools. There was a fight for a while, but the women were able to overpower Steve after a while. Molly finally kicked him in the face and Noah grabbed their phones. Paul was finally able to find the place of Molly's location. Steve had survived and grabbed a gun. He went into the woods hunting the women. He shot his gun. Paul heard the shot, then decided it was best for him if he left. We then see Anne, the wife, arriving at the house and finding bloodstains on the floor. She figured out he had been having dinner with one of the women. Steve had gotten close to Noah, but Molly attacked him. Noah took his gun and shot him. They ran away but couldn't find any phone signal. Noah said she was returning to get her phone. Anne had found her husband's body. She was with a bodyguard and told him they needed to cover everything up. Noah found her phone in the trees. However, we then see Anne approaching her and acting like one of the freed victims. She thanked her and tried to choke her. Noah grabbed her keys and stabbed her. She was able to scream and Molly heard her. Molly came with a shovel and hit her. The two friends sit together, and Molly told Noah that Anne was Steve's wife. This was the recap for Fresh. Let us know your thoughts on this one in the comments.
Ooh, that sugar sweet, you got what I need. Sipping on the potion, all that good emotion, just my kind of heat. Keep it on repeat, tested by the motion.